Cool. Well, thanks for joining me, Patrick Renna on the line. It's really cool to talk to you, man. Now, how much are you still associated with some of your earlier movies? Like, I know you've done some pretty big stuff. Like the Sandlot is a huge favorite. You still get a lot of that on the street. People calling you up for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would say it's still pretty frequent. You know, kind of. It's a multi-generational movie, so now the people that are my age and have kids, and you know, the grandparents, and so it's every different age bracket seems to still love the movie. So, and
it's such a big movie. In a way, it's kind of like the Goonies of that generation, you know?
You know, it's funny because for me, it was the Goonies. That was my Sandlot, because I'm growing up myself. I think, what did that come out in, 89? Something like that, 88? Maybe even 87. But that completely was the movie I watched probably 500 times. And, you know, Chester Copperpot, Slick Shoes, the whole thing.
Now, you were at the time, I guess, when Sandlot, you were what, 14 or 15-ish?
Yeah, it came out and I was 14, and when I was filming it, I was 13.
As a child, as a young actor like yourself, now, do you have kids currently now?
No, not yet. Soon.
When you do have kids, is that something that you would want them to kind of do, or like through your experiences as acting as a kid? Is that?
You know, I think the most important thing for it, you know, if my kids want to do it, is really, do they truly want to do it? Because growing up, my parents never really pressured me into it. It was always something that I asked them to help me do. And, you know, they both, and especially my mother, helped me a lot to create what I wanted to create. But I think that forcing anyone or even kind of leading them on is a bad idea, and because it's a tough business. You know, it's not. It's a great business, and if you're doing what you love in anything, I think that's really important. But that would be what I would base it on: is, do they really want to do it, or is it just something I'm excited for them to do? You know?
Yeah, because it's a lot about your parents kind of keeping you, you know, on the right path through it all, I guess. Hey.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think, especially if you're doing it in LA. It's a big city. There's a lot of driving. And you could have 3-4 auditions in a day, and they could be on the other side of town, and that's a full-time job. So it was funny because my mom, when I was doing it, she never really went around with me. We would always hire someone to sort of, you know, take me around at a young age, just because that's kind of an awful job for a parent unless they're really into it. Sitting in a car for 4 hours in traffic, you know, hauling them around. So it was kind of great because I would just have friends do it. And then even when I went on location in my late teens, I would have, you know, good friends go with me. Like, I went with a buddy to Romania, and you know, he was substantially older than me. So, but it was a great experience because it was just me and one of my best friend's older brothers, and it was kind of cool because it was, you know, like an early trip to Europe.
And how did you get started in all this? Because even watching you in The Sandlot, that was one of your first, your first big movie, and looking at you in that movie, you would have thought that this is your, you know, 10th film, but really it was your first big one. How did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, well, thank you. I did a lot of school plays. I'm originally from the East Coast, from Boston, and in schools I would do plays, and I just loved acting since then, and Sandlot was my first substantial role, and I think it was a perfect first role, though, because, you know, we were out of town with 9 guys playing baseball, and, you know, how hard is that? You know what I mean? Like, we kind of we all fell into the characters, and, you know, there were definitely parts of all of us in real life that were in those characters. We were very, very similar on and off the field, I guess you could say.
Any talks in the future of a reunion? I know they always like to try and do these cast reunions and get everyone together, you know, years later. I know last year, I guess, would have been the big one. I would have been 20 years, but...
Yeah, a couple of us got together. I did a little, ballpark tour with the director, and Chauncey came along for some of it. He played Squints. And I went to 4 or 5 ballparks, and the director went to about 20 or 30. And then random cast members would show up in certain ones. So that was cool. I got to see some of the guys that I haven't seen in years. But I don't know, maybe they're saving like the big one for the 25th anniversary or something.
Yeah. Do you see cast members from the show in that time? Are you guys in touch at all, or?
You know, not a whole lot, just because I think our lives have gone in different directions. I see Chauncey, who played Squints again. I see him throughout. I've seen him throughout the years. I've definitely stayed in touch with him. In our late teens, early 20s, we kind of hung out and, had a little bit of a fun time together in Hollywood. He kind of ran in a similar circle. Yep. He and I did 3 movies together, if you can believe it. And he did a movie with another really good friend of mine that I grew up with. So we would hang out, that was probably 10, 15 years ago. And then I saw him on this trip, and he's the one guy that I stay in touch with. The cool lead, Mike Vitar, he became a firefighter, and he's a big family man. I think he's got 2 daughters, and leads a fairly private life. But anytime we run into each other, it's always a great experience. But so it's things like that. He became a firefighter. Tom Geiger, who played Scotty Smalls, was on the East Coast. A couple of the other guys don't live in LA, so it's tough to stay in touch like that,
Yeah, and in your career, too, after The Sandlot, you went on and you did a bunch of really memorable movies, like, like The Big Green and TV show appearances, like on, Boy Meets World, all this stuff. Any roles that you never got that you wish you did, looking back on? Like, were you ever close to landing something big?
That's funny. I've never really thought of that, because I think there's probably a million roles like that. You out here in LA, you can audition for 10 different things. Like I auditioned for Turtle on Entourage. That would have been a cool one. Although the guy who played that was pretty great.
Wow.
And that's kind of the funny thing is you audition for something and then you see the guy who did it and you go, well, they were great for it. And it would be like someone else doing Ham from Sandlot, or my role in Boston Legal or X-Files or whatever. It's like you can't, once you see the person, you can't replace them. So you don't, at least I don't get like too bummed out about it, because that's the name of the game out here. And there's so many, and the great thing is there's always something else right around the corner,
That's true, yeah. But you always do hear about those people that, this guy was almost, Han Solo, or he was almost whatever, and, those iconic roles. But
and I don't know how close any of that they really were to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's always probably 10 other choices, so it's kind of you'll drive yourself crazy thinking like that.
Now, now looking into the future of things, anything that you want to do in your career that you haven't done yet?
Yeah, I mean, I want to continue acting for the rest of my life. This is what I love doing, and I got on the other side and produced my first movie recently. And did it with a couple friends of mine, and we got some money together. And
was that the Kickstarter campaign? Was that the one?
Yeah, Kickstarter helped out, and then lucky enough, we were, after Kickstarter, able to get some private funding on it. So we got a little budget together and filmed it in March of this year in LA, and we just wrapped the editing of it. It's myself, a guy named Tommy Savis, who is another actor, and a couple other friends of ours, Jason Schnell and a friend of mine who wrote it. And we kind of were the creative producers the whole time on it. So we would get together and, come up with a story, and then the writer wrote it, and we were there every step of the way. So it was really great, because I had never done anything like that. And to see the other side of this business is really interesting. And you learn a lot about it.
Because this is how many years for you now? Like you started out like you were, I guess, 13. You're filming, and even earlier. Now you're 35-ish now.
Yeah, I'm an old fart.
Been around for a while, man.
Yeah, I've been doing it for 22 years.
Wow.
It definitely doesn't feel like that. That's for sure.
Very cool. Well, Patrick, I don't want to keep you much longer, man. I'm sure you got a lot ahead of you today. Before we go, though, is it true that you're actually pretty good friends with Andrew Keegan still, or no?
Yeah, I mean, he and I were definitely buddies a couple years ago. We did a short film about Buddy Holly
Yeah.
I don't even know how long ago. I don't want to guess because it's probably longer than I think. But
Yeah.
So if I run into him, it's kind of like one of those things. The movies are like high school, so it's sort of like a mini reunion every time you run into these guys. But then when your paths cross, but you kind of live, a little bit separate lives. So I haven't seen him in a while. But yes, if I ran into him, it would be just like the other day.
Well, the reason I ask is just coincidence. We're actually in touch with his people too, and he might actually be on the show next month, maybe. So I was wondering if you could maybe give me some dirt on him that I could, he would hit him with it, and he would kind of be like, "How do you know this?"
No, I don't have any good dirt. We didn't hang out enough, I guess, for that. But I wish I did. That's too bad.
Hey, do you have Twitter, Instagram, all this stuff? Let's plug that too for you.
Yes, I do. It's just my name, @Patrick Renna, for both Twitter and Instagram.
Cool stuff. Sounds good.
Pretty simple.
That's the best. I love when people are like, well, it's Steven with a PH, and then there's an underscore, and then it's 18, but it's spelled out 18, and you're like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like
I kept it easy. It's pretty simple to find me.
And then it's like the real Patrick Renna, or no, it's like
I was gonna say the real, but not really the real Patrick Renna. There you go.
I promise this is the real Patrick Renna.
There it is.
All right, man. Well, thanks. It's been great talking with you, buddy, and we'll do it again soon.
I'd love to. Thanks, man.